Paula Vennells has got the CBE.
Joking.
Services to the post office.
Not anymore. Thanks to the ITV drama, a slow-burning campaign has become a raging fire and pressurised the former post office boss to return her CBE. In a statement, Paula Vennells said, "I'm aware of the calls from subpostmasters and others to return my CBE. I've listened and I confirm that I return my CBE with immediate effect. I am truly sorry for the devastation caused to the subpostmasters and their families, whose lives were torn apart by being wrongly accused and wrongly prosecuted as a result of the Horizon system."
I was and remain deeply disturbed by what has come to light.
After seeing Paula Vennells, who is also a Church of England priest, portrayed in the ITV drama, more than 1 million people had signed an online petition calling for her to be stripped of the honour. The Prime Minister weighed in, supporting the idea, as did many sub-postmasters.
Delighted, in a way, that she's given it back. But now she's given it back, it stops the government taking it away from her.
Vijay Parekh, wrongly jailed for fraud, had to wait 11 years to be cleared.
I don't think she wanted to give it back, but with all this pressure of 1 million signatures, I think she did the best thing for her, not for us.
Minister to move second reading, Mr. Kevan Hollinrake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
3 weeks ago, this was the Commons' turnout to debate postmaster compensation. Last night, after the TV drama, a very different picture.
I think it would be sensible and reasonable for the former CEO to hand back an honour that was given for services to the post office.
One long-standing campaigner today said that wasn't enough.
I've got a letter here. It's my 4th letter I've written to the Fortitude Committee to actually try and get them to withdraw this honour. Did she bow to the inevitable? I think she did this week. But what we need to know now is why she was given it in the first place in 2019.
What's your suspicion? Who nominated her?
Well, Number 10 today have said they welcome this. Well, they gave it to her in 2019. They also appointed her as a non-executive on the board of the Cabinet Office and appointed her to NHS Trust. And then now we learn that she was also in the running for being the Bishop of London.
The person who did get that job in 2018 was Sarah Mullally. But Paula Vennells, it emerged today, ran her close. If she'd been appointed, she would have been the Church of England's 3rd-ranking cleric, a member of the House of Lords, and assisting at the King's coronation. The annulment of Paula Vennells' CBE must now be approved by the King. It isn't, as her statement suggested, with immediate effect. But the humiliation is.
Gary Gibbon reporting. Well, Fujitsu, the Japanese technology firm which manufactured the faulty Horizon software, will be quizzed by MPs next week about their role. The company is also facing growing calls to pay compensation to the affected postal staff. And Downing Street hinted this morning the scandal could affect its current and future government contracts. So how integral is Fujitsu's role in our public services? Simeon Brown has been finding out.
Whilst the Japanese IT supplier Fujitsu is proud of its work with our government is facing embarrassment over how its IT services have become beholden to a foreign multinational company involved in one of the greatest miscarriages of justice in British history. Despite the political backlash, Fujitsu is still considered a strategic supplier of the government that has received billions from taxpayers, even after the post office scandal. This is one recent contract.
There's now a way to warn you. It looks like this and sounds like this.
If the post office scandal is a political emergency, some may not be comforted with the company being contracted to deliver a new national emergency alert system for mobile phones at an estimated cost of up to £5 million. Fujitsu, a major defence supplier, also has a recent contract with the Foreign Office to provide communications. The company is expected to be paid £184 million.
Let's be honest.
Since 2012, the public sector has awarded the company almost 200 contracts worth a staggering £6.8 billion. And let's not forget the company still has a contract with Post Office where the Horizon system still runs. Why have governments been so unwilling to deliver services themselves?
I think for many services, government just simply doesn't have the capacity. There's clearly an open question about whether the contracts that Fujitsu are delivering at the moment, or the contracts that they could bid for in the future, whether Fujitsu will be allowed to bid for those.
Does the government currently have the powers to stop and take away the contract that Fujitsu currently has?
Historically, government bodies have been reluctant to exclude suppliers for fear that they would be sued for those decisions.
But are the company's days under public contract numbered? The government is under pressure to ensure Fujitsu foots the bill for the lost livelihoods caused by their software.
It won't necessarily just be the taxpayer, you and I and my constituents in Central Devon, as you put it, that are on the hook for this money.
This is how Fujitsu emerged in the UK, when it purchased the British firm International Computers Limited, who first developed the Horizon software in the 1990s. The company rose as a strategic supplier as successive governments have increasingly deferred to the expertise of private companies in tech.
I've seen an awful lot of tech procurement in my time, and I would say that in general, the people doing the buying are infinitely less well informed than the people doing the selling. What the Post Office scandal shows us is partly that we are very obedient, compliant, almost infantilized, I think, in front of technology. But it's also, we have bought the narrative which says, well, people make mistakes, but technology doesn't.
This is the consequence of that blind deference. Although these postmasters managed to overturn their convictions, they remain out of pocket as Fujitsu posts UK profits and the country watches the dramatization.
Cheers. Hi, it's good to be here.
And you, welcome to Fujitsu.
Cheers.
The company say it has apologized for its role in the suffering of the postmasters, and that the current inquiry is examining the events and it would be inappropriate to comment. But what many ask is just what consequences would the company finally face?
Simeon Brown reporting. So how much is this whole fiasco likely to cost you, us, the taxpayer? Our economics correspondent Helia Ebrahimi is here. Helia, crunch the numbers for us.
Well, Matt, we've been trying to unpick the staggering sums of money involved in this scandal. We've been working with government procurement analyst Tussell, who have identified £1 million contracts awarded to yet more lawyers, this time to advise the Department of Business itself on how to manage the crisis. I can tell you that firms Addleshaw, Goddard, Dentons, and Freeth, that's actually the firm that represented the postmasters in the 2019 trial, have been hired over the last 18 months, costing over £350,000 a month in total. Now, that all adds up to £6.5 million. And Matt, that is separate from the legal fees that are being accumulated by the Post Office itself. That's a whopping £146 million. And add on to that the cost of the inquiry itself, which is £50 million and counting.
OK, that adds up to quite a lot. What about money for those most aggrieved in this, the postmasters and postmistresses? Compensation.
Right. Well, indeed. We've got 4 pots of money here, from the court case to postmasters who lost out in pay to compensation for those who were wrongly convicted. I have to stress this is money that's been earmarked. It hasn't actually yet all gone to victims. The money set aside by government has now climbed to £1.2 billion. So, Matt, that means altogether that amounts to £1.4 billion. Now, that kind of sum could easily pay for example, 46,000 new teachers. It's already been described as one of the most egregious miscarriages of justice in British history. It's very quickly becoming one of the most costly to taxpayers.
Helen, thanks very much. Let's go to Jackie in Leeds. Jackie.
Well, in Westminster now is the Labour MP, Kevan Jones, who you just saw in Gary's report. He's supported victims of the Post Office scandal for several years and is on the Horizon Compensation Advisory Board. Mr Jones, just to begin, the huge sums of taxpayer money being spent on trying to sort out this mess while victims wait for compensation. I'm assuming that just adds insult to injury.
Well, it does, and the key point and message from this week has got to be, which Alan Bates said, that we need to get compensation to these victims as quickly as possible. But remember, if you also add in the over £100 million the Post Office spent fighting Alan Bates and the claimants group, and that was our taxpayers' money, which was used in a case where they knew that they had not a leg to stand on, but they still used it to weaponise the legal system against the campaigners.
So as you've said, you know, you're on the compensation board. What discussions are ongoing? Are you able to make it clear to government what you want to happen right now? Are meetings planned?
Well, we have a meeting tomorrow afternoon, actually, and we've been trying to streamline the process in terms of compensation, also ensuring that there's independence. We've now got Sir Ross Cranston, a High Court judge, former High Court judge, who will now sit and see whether these compensation elements are fair. But we also need to discuss the issue around those 927 cases where people's convictions have not yet been overturned.
Yes, and that is clearly a very tricky issue, isn't it? I mean, how do you want it to be resolved?
Well, it is, and I think the government's given an indication it's got to be done. My starting point, I think my fellow members of the board are very clear. We wrote to the Justice Secretary before Christmas to say that this needs to be done. We now need to work out the detail of exactly how we're going to do it. But I'm certainly determined, I know my fellow board members are, that this needs to be done.
I mean, one of the suggestions has been that there could be some sort of one-off law to exonerate all of those who were convicted. Now, it would require a one-off Act of Parliament. And we heard the former Attorney General, Dominic Grieve, express some concern about that today, the idea of political interference in the judicial process. He said that if you use Parliament in this way, it is, in a sense, parliamentary interference, and he's quite worried about it. Do you share those concerns? I respect Dominic's opinion, but I think the other concern I have is that you've got a situation here where the justice system's reputation that allows this to happen is already damaged, and we need also a system which not only overturns this but gives some credibility back to that system. Of course, one of the other key issues here is accountability. The Post Office, Fujitsu. Will there be accountability here, do you think? You know, what's crystal clear is while the lives of these people, the postal staff, were slowly being destroyed over a good length of time, the Post Office continued to make profits, Fujitsu continued to get valuable contracts from government. What should happen now? Well, I'm determined. I think the campaigners are determined to get compensation for them individuals, but what they want is those that took these decisions, were involved, to be held to account, and I think that has got to happen. In terms of Fujitsu, I've got to say we've been completely silent this week. What should happen? The government, as a matter of course, should put a moratorium on any new contracts going to that company until they give a full explanation of what they did in this scandal. And just very briefly, would you anticipate them paying some of the compensation? Would that be your view? Well, I think when you just look at the evidence that's in the public domain already, I think they have a case to answer. I think the problem is now we've got the excellent inquiry which is going ahead at the moment, and people seem to be hiding behind that, but they'll not be able to hide behind that forever. Kevan Jones, thanks very much for talking to us today.